Taking a break in the countryside is more than just relaxing under the stars, enjoying fresh bread from the oven, and soaking in the tranquil hum of a radio. It's about cherishing childhood memories and the comforting presence of loved ones. But it also requires continuous work. Maintaining the house, tending to the garden, and handling daily chores like planting vegetables and cooking can be an overwhelming task. Lelya held deep affection for her aging mother, who could no longer manage the household chores alone. After losing her partner a few years ago, Lelya's mother kept up with the garden and prepared meals for the family. Initially, Lelya objected to her mother's insistence on maintaining the garden, suggesting they could buy groceries instead. However, her mother was determined, disappointed when Lelya didn't come to collect the fresh produce. Before we continue, hit the like and subscribe buttons for more stories like this. Lelya's husband left her for a younger neighbor, leaving her without support. It became clear that the sustenance from her mother's garden was their only means of survival. Lelya stopped objecting and began to help her mother every weekend. During the summer, she would spend an extended break in the village with her daughter. Working as an educator, she and her child lived in a compact, one-bedroom rented flat. By the year's end, they often felt worn out from the walls closing in and yearned for the freedom of the village. On a particularly warm day, Lelya worked in the garden, but soon became overheated and longed for the cool indoors. With a sigh, she adjusted her hat and braved the midday sun to run errands for yeast and toothpaste. On her way back, she decided to take a shortcut through a field. Just a few steps in, she heard a soft whimper. Curious, Lelya turned around but only saw an improvised garbage pile organized by the store workers. Villagers typically shunned stray animals, unwilling to feed extra mouths without apparent benefit. Lelya surveyed the junk heap, gasping in horror as she spotted something moving behind a mound of old boxes. Hunched, there was a seemingly horrific creature, stick-thin, graying, and filthy, with disproportionately large eyes, antenna-like ears, and strange lumps on its skin. Lelya stepped closer for a better look, but the creature vanished into the tall grass. Later, she shared her encounter with her mother, who dismissed her concern. "That creature's not from around here. It's going to perish, either from starvation or poisoning," she said. Her mother recounted how stray kittens had met a similar fate after being poisoned by the store staff when they became too noticeable. The harsh reality disturbed Lelya. Despite its frightful appearance, the creature didn't deserve such a cruel fate. Lelya felt a spark of energy and thought, why not help? Yet she hesitated. The creature looked severely unwell, and inviting an unknown animal into her home wasn't wise, especially with her young daughter to think about. She had learned that lesson the hard way with her husband. That evening, she pondered the situation, weighing her options. By morning, she had made up her mind. She told her mother that if the creature survived her attempts to help, it was meant to hold on. Otherwise, it wasn't. Her mother respected her decision and allowed her to use the old shed, a makeshift storeroom filled with items left by Lelya's father. Together, they cleaned the shed to create a space for the creature. Lelya hoped to entice it with food. She prepared a dish of oats mixed with boiled egg and a bit of sausage, placing the concoction in an old container. Filled with determination, she set off to rescue the poor creature. Arriving at the dump site, Lelya felt a pang of fear that someone had found the creature. Instead, she spotted a frail, shaking figure lurking behind the boxes. It was definitely a dog, possibly a pup, but its condition was so dire it was hard to discern its breed. Lelya put on gloves, not wanting to risk infection. She extended the food container, and the dog showed interest, wagging its tail but hesitating to approach. Lelya took a step closer, which startled the dog, and it dashed into the tall grass. Realizing her initial plan needed rethinking, Lelya left food near the shrubs and promised to return the next morning. She hoped the dog would understand it wasn't alone. The following day, she found the food container empty. The dog appeared from behind the boxes, watching her cautiously. Lelya placed a new food bowl nearby, ensuring it wasn't visible from the store. As she stepped back, the dog slowly emerged, nosing the food. Lelya noticed something troubling. The dog's gait was unnatural and twisty, almost spider-like, stirring more sympathy within her. After the dog ate, Lelya attempted to move closer again, but it scampered away. It took several more attempts before Lelya could finally lift the dog into a box and cover it gently with a lid. The canine squirmed, agitated, but Lelya held it firmly as she carried it home, revealing it only in the shed where they had prepared a spot. The dog trembled in fear. Lelya quietly exited, closing the doors to give the creature time to adjust. That evening, she checked on it. The dog was still hiding, but the food bowls were empty, a small beacon of hope. While her mother and daughter were eager to meet the newcomer, Lelya hesitated. She feared exposing them to any potential infections and worried they might be terrified at the dog's current state. The dog needed veterinary care, but transporting such a frightened creature posed risks. Choosing to approach the situation cautiously, Lelya aimed to gain the dog's trust before seeking medical help. It took nearly a week of leaving food at the threshold without alarming the animal for Lelya to see progress. The breakthrough moment came when Lelya walked in with a bowl of food, and instead of hiding, the dog took hesitant steps toward her. This marked a significant change in the dog's demeanor. Lelya consistently wore gloves for safety and gently petted the dog's head, discovering it was incredibly affectionate. She named her Candy, as the dog's sweet disposition reminded Lelya of a treat. Candy began to gain weight and appeared healthier, but Lelya remained concerned about the abnormal growths on her skin and her oddly twisted paws. Deciding to train Candy to be comfortable with a leash, Lelya introduced a soft collar. Though Candy sniffed it with curiosity, she yelped and fled when Lelya tried to put it on her. Lelya patiently prolonged the leash training, using treats to coax Candy into accepting the collar. Within 2 days, Candy wore it proudly, and putting on the leash became much simpler. They ventured outside together, but Lelya felt uneasy about Candy's unnatural gait. The next day, Lelya finally took Candy to the veterinarian. Their journey went smoothly, with Candy showing no signs of wanting to flee or cause a scene. Upon reaching the clinic, Lelya felt both relieved and anxious. The vet reprimanded Lelya for not seeking help sooner. Candy had extensive skin issues. What Lelya thought were dirt lumps turned out to be scabs caused by parasites, resulting in fur loss. The vet assured her that they could help Candy recover, but the ticks needed to be eliminated first. The treatment plan was daunting. Candy would need daily baths with a special solution for ticks, injections, and medicated food. Lelya arrived home exhausted, carrying a bag full of medications and a wary Candy. Determined to complete the tasks quickly, she found herself struggling as Candy dashed into a corner, terrified of the water-filled basin. After a long battle, Lelya managed to bathe Candy, but it turned into a chaotic experience, leaving both of them soaked. Despite the difficulties, Lelya pressed forward, giving Candy the medication and applying the treatment spray. Over the next 2 weeks, Candy visibly suffered through the routine, but Lelya remained steadfast. Slowly, the crusts began to disappear, and Candy acclimatized to the baths. When Lelya took Candy back to the vet, he praised her efforts. Candy's skin had nearly healed, and they could finally address her paws. After thorough examinations, the vet recommended surgery to restore her paw alignment, but the cost was considerable. As a single mother with a teacher's salary, Lelya felt disheartened. Candy was allowed to mingle with other animals, but Lelya's mother was saddened by Candy's twisted paws. Seeing her daughter's crestfallen expression, Lelya's mother suggested selling the woodworking machine left by her father. To their delight, a buyer was found quickly, allowing Candy to return for her surgery. After the procedure, Lelya was furious to see Candy kept in a cramped kennel for observation. Although the vet explained the importance of restricting her movement, Lelya couldn't help but worry about Candy's comfort. Lelya visited Candy daily, bringing her daughter along. After a few days, Candy was allowed to go home, although she struggled to move as she adjusted to her newly aligned legs. Lelya dedicated herself to helping Candy relearn how to walk. Her daughter quickly formed a bond with Candy, helping to accelerate her recovery. Candy soon gained confidence, moving around the apartment without dragging her front limbs. Lelya and her daughter took her for walks in quieter locations, avoiding other animals and people. As Candy regained her strength, Lelya became self-conscious about her appearance. Although her health was improving, patches of fur were regrowing, causing her to look like a scrubbing brush. To avoid drawing attention, Lelya began knitting and sewing hoodies for Candy. Weeks passed, and Candy's stitches were removed. She learned to walk properly, and when her coat fully grew back, she looked endearing. Lelya continued to dress Candy, but now it was for fun rather than necessity. They explored parks and busy streets, where Candy found four-legged friends and rarely left her small owner's side. When Lelya and her family visited their countryside home, her mother barely recognized Candy. "You brought home a terror, and now this is a well-adjusted dog," she marveled. Candy captivated everyone she met, drawing warm smiles and praise. Occasionally, Lelya wondered how people would have reacted had they encountered Candy in her original pitiful state, starving, weak, and with malformed legs. Yet, Lelya felt a profound sense of joy, knowing she had saved a life and made a significant difference. Like this story? Share it with your friends and family. Let's spread the message of kindness and the transformative power of love towards those in need, just like Lelya did for Candy.